Hello and good evening. It already looks like we've got a fantastic turnout tonight. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us for our arts therapy webinar. I know that everything's busy this time of year, so it's great to see how many of you have put the time aside to come and hear more about something really interesting, and something you might be keen to explore with us. My name is Tequila. I'm going to be your host for this evening. I'm a course advisor within the student experience team, and my role is basically to help students understand the courses that are available. Tonight we have joining us Svetlana, who is our academic program coordinator for arts therapies. And behind the scenes, we also have our IT and marketing wizard, Luke, who's helping keep everything running on the back end. And we have another lovely course advisor, Chris Watling, who will be helping with the questionnaires later on this evening. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I'm just going to go over a little bit of housekeeping for the webinar. The session should run about approximately an hour, with the last component being a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions that come up throughout the duration of the webinar, anything that's unclear, just feel free to pop it in the chat box. We have Chris who will try to get through most of your questions as best she can. But of course, any that are left over, it means that we'll get to go over them during the live discussion at the end of the session. In terms of the rest of the webinar, we're going to go over some important details about the course, including the course structure, practical experiences, accreditation, and we're very lucky to have Svetlana here to actually talk to us from the academic standpoint about the course and, all the details. So if you do have any questions that aren't answered during the session, you can always get in touch with us afterwards. For the duration, I think your mics and cameras should already be muted. But if you do have anything come up, as I said, pop it in the question box. Now, I think to get started, I'm going to hand it straight over to you, Svetlana, if you'd like to speak to what is arts therapy. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Tequila, and welcome everyone. Really great to see you all here, and also more importantly that you're all interested in what arts therapy is all about. So really at its core or at its heart, arts therapy is an intentional mental health profession. So, but it uses the creative processes as a way of helping people and supporting people with mental health challenges or with lived experience, trauma, and using visual arts, using drama, movement, music, all kinds of, it's not just visual painting or drawing, it's using all the arts. That S at the end of the arts is really important. So it really utilizes an embodied approach as well to therapy. So how it's different to talk therapy is it really does bypass the verbal languages. It's not to say it doesn't use talk therapy. There's certainly talk therapy incorporated in arts therapy. You can't get people not talking. They will always talk. But essentially, we're bypassing. People don't need to express themselves verbally. They can use the arts as a way of gaining a new perspective on a challenge that they might have been dealing with for many years, or going to different therapists for many years. So arts therapy is really kind of this way in for the clients to sort of start gaining a different understanding. And the great thing about the creative arts is that there is a real authentic expression around it. Like, you can't, once you're in a process, a creative process, it's an authentic process. It's an authentic expression. So really it's helping our clients expressing those really hard to talk about emotions through this creative modality. So it can really be this way in for clients. The methods and the approach of arts therapy, we're there to guide the arts, to guide our clients. We're there with the knowledge of psychological processes, with intentional use of the creative modalities. So we know about what we can offer our clients and how we can guide our clients in finding answers for themselves. And really, most importantly, is sort of guiding them in accessing meaning making around challenges that they've lived through. So as a trained arts therapist, you're really supporting this, and you're supporting it with intention and knowledge of what these processes can do. So it's not about the end product. So I often hear potential students saying, "Well, I'm not an artist, or I'm not creative." Although I will argue with that, I think everyone's creative. But so I often hear that, but you don't need to be an artist in this course. It's about the process of the creative expression. So we're not interested in the kind of end product. We're not interested in hanging up the finished product in a gallery wall. It's more about the process and what it can allow our clients to get in touch with within their own sort of search for meaning. Where we can use our art therapy, the settings and outcomes, well, that list is growing. We can be in schools, we can be in hospitals, we can be in community centres, we can be collaborating with other therapists in private practice. So really the setting for arts therapy, it's just getting broader and broader, and as more people learn about the benefits of it, you're seeing organisations and mental health care facilities actually expressing interest in having an art therapist in the team. So just I think I've covered all of that. And how it's really different to just the I guess the talk therapy on its own. Yes, we're still holding a lot of understanding on how the the mental processes that are going on as a client is expressing themselves, but we're not just relying on words. They don't need to rely on words with arts therapy, and it can be, particularly for teenagers, it's a really great way to break the ice, because often when people say, "Oh, therapy," they might sort of close off from it. But when you're bringing in sort of these creative materials, it can often be the doorway in, and then we can sort of do the work with our clients.
Svetlana, and there's a lot of spaces where that non-verbal is particularly apparent. Like you said, teenagers is a really good example. It also falls under a lot of different spectrums, rehabilitation, aged
Yep.
care. So there's a lot of spaces where that non-verbal is really essential.
Yes, and in disability too. Also, selective mutism. I've had a few clients, young clients. So yeah, it doesn't close the door. It's like, okay, so we're not talking today. That's okay, because we have all these other kind of doorways that we can sort of step through with our clients. So it is a brilliant way to work with people.
Absolutely. And I also really liked the emphasis there that it's less about the artistic practice and more about that therapeutic application. I think that's a really important distinction for
Yeah.
people looking to do the course.
Yes, yes, but it's based in really rigorous kind of clinical, theory and
Mm.
understanding of counselling and the therapeutic relationship. So it's really based in this foundation of, I guess it's, psychotherapy, but we've just got this other extra element to it that we can bring into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then next slide, please. If we want to maybe look at the actual structure of the courses, then if we're looking at arts therapy, we offer both the diploma and the bachelor. What would you say about the structure of these two courses, and when would you recommend which?
Yeah, look, the beautiful thing about what we offer, and the idea of these building blocks. So you might be here today thinking, "Oh, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do." So you don't have to commit to the full 3 years in the bachelor. You can do the diploma, knowing that if you want to continue, it's like a building block. So you do the diploma, and then you can move into the next stage of the bachelor. And the wonderful news is that we are going to also be working on the Masters of Creative Therapies, which is really exciting. So, but it is like building blocks. It's sort of, they work together. So if you do one, you can continue to the next one.
Yes, and from a technical standpoint, I guess because students might ask this question, when we say one builds onto the other, our courses are nested within one another. So the first year of the diploma actually constitutes the first year of the bachelor degree. So not only can you go from completion of the diploma into the second year of the bachelor degree, you can also exit the bachelor degree after the first year and still exit with a diploma. Is that right, Svetlana?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Yep. Yep. So
beautiful.
it's a bit it's flexible like that. You don't, you've got some, and also because it is nested as well, it has the opportunity for prior learning too. So you might actually get credits for your learning as well.
Yeah, beautiful. And both of these courses are offered in blended mode, so they have online and face-to-face components. My understanding is there are placements and our intensive subjects are face-to-face. So we're going to look at them a bit more maybe on the next slide, please.
Yes, yes. And I think it's really important to sort of speak to this because as the industry changes in the real world, and we have to sort of step up to offering the face-to-face learning, we do have each year there is a intensive element or an intensive subject. So this is where students will be doing most of that subject online, and then there is a 3-day intensive where it'll be done on campus, and that is there so that when students graduate, they're actually ticking the box of professional memberships. Yeah. So it's really important to point that out. And of course, placement subjects in third year. And that's when you're sort of going out and all the learning, all that foundation that you've got in your backpack, you're actually going to go out into the real world and practice and have that experience. And often with the second placement, you get into an organisation, and very often you hear students saying how they've been, they often are offered a job. Yeah, they graduate and they've got somewhere to go. So placement's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, really fantastic industry exposure. And I think also the nature of this type of degree, very much like counseling and psychotherapy and other therapy-based degrees, they're very integrative. It's holistic learning. You actually want to have that face-to-face component to fully understand the course material as well.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It makes such a difference. And
Mm.
particularly the subjects that have been chosen to be in intensive, there is a lot of that experiential element to it. I think with our first one, the art therapy groups, where students are actually facilitating art therapy group sessions. So they're building a program, a workshop, a 1-hour workshop, and then they're facilitating it. So each week, a different student facilitates the group session. So you get that real sort of hands-on experience of what it's like. What do I have to consider? What does the room look like? What materials am I going to use? What processes am I going to use? What's the theme? All these things that they're actually going to be able to sort of really do in real life, in real terms. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a question we get from students a lot is about the materials required for students. And obviously, like you said, there's a range of modalities. We're not just looking at visual arts here, but from my understanding, you'll also be incorporating a lot of daily things, paper and things you can find around the home, different types of, materials. So it's not specifically sending students out to arts and crafts shops for their different classes.
No, no, yeah. No, I mean, you just need sort of the basic sort of materials, but you can use things like nature in the garden, use materials from the garden. You can use symbols from around the house. You might have a collection of little sort of symbols lying around. You can use
Knickknacks.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spices, great. Also, you can actually make paint or colors from different spices as well. So we really kind of open or broaden the scope of what you can use as a creative material for sure.
Yeah, beautiful. So just before we move on to the next section, I think we're going to touch upon our accreditation and a few details up ahead. In terms of this blended format and the blend of on-campus and online, we're looking at one intensive subject if doing the diploma, which requires face-to-face contact. And then if doing the bachelor degree, it's one per year plus the 2 placements at the end of the final year. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Beautiful. Just so our students understand the blended mode. Next slide, please. Now, as you put so beautifully, Svetlana, the reason we've actually altered the structure of the degree is to make sure that it aligns with accreditation standards. Would you like to speak to the new changes we have with our accreditation?
Yes, so we are currently going through the process of getting accreditation with PACFA. So at the moment, ANSA Carter, they have changed their sort of scope. Originally, they were taking any bachelor students in a tier membership criteria, but now last year they changed their direction, and they're no longer going to be taking any bachelor students from any higher education course. They're only sticking to master students. So, but because we've had this relationship with ANSA Carter, as many universities and higher education institutions have had, they're honouring this tier membership until July the 1st. So it's really important when you enrol into the course that you get your student membership before July 1st. That's really, really important so that you will be then eligible for that tier membership. But moving forward, what we're aiming to do is have the accreditation with PACFA so that then our graduates will have that membership that they can roll into. So, which is really exciting because they've got a whole creative therapies sort of section to their membership as well. So there's a lot of arts therapists that are already members with PACFA. They chose PACFA over ANSA Carter. So yeah, it's just another pathway.
Beautiful. And just for anyone in the audience that aren't familiar with the different accrediting bodies, ANZA Carter is the Australian New Zealand Association of Creative Arts Therapies Association. Is that the
Yes,
last A?
yeah.
Yeah.
Association's the last one. Yeah.
Last one. And to just, recap what Svetlana said, this is the last intake that ANZA Carter accreditation will apply to our bachelor degree because they're honoring our relationship with them. So for any of our students that commence in the trimester 2 intake this year, will still be able to receive ANZA Carter accreditation if they register their student account. Is that right, Svetlana?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And going forward, including the trimester 2 students, we are in the process of applying for accreditation with PACFA, which is the Psychotherapy and Counselling Federation of Australia. So a different accreditation, and arguably a very, very strong accreditation.
Oh,
So
definitely, definitely. Yep. And of course, we're also going to be introducing the masters. So once that gets underway, that'll probably then would be eligible again for ANSA Carter down the track as well. So, which is
yeah,
great. You'll have a few
absolutely.
pathways.
Yeah. And, a question, the course advisors get a lot, Svetlana, so I'm going to ask on behalf of the students is really, what does accreditation give you? How important is accreditation? And, my understanding is that for those looking to run their own practice and lead workshops, the diploma itself is actually a very strong standalone qualification. But for those looking to maybe work in clinical settings, government settings that need to move a bit further in the industry, that accreditation would be recommended. Would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, so with a diploma, often people do leave with the diploma, and it's an add-on to what else they're doing. They could already be in counselling or psychotherapy. They could be a social worker. They could be a support worker. We have a lot of students that already have a qualification in the area that they're working in. They do the diploma, and it's like an add-on. So it's like they're adding to I love calling it a backpack. I don't know why, but I just have this vision of we kind of go along in life and we keep adding to our therapeutic backpack that we carry. So often the diploma works really well with that. When you go into a bachelor, then you get those accreditations, those memberships. What that allows you to do then is to get as insurance, liability insurance. You also have a code of ethics that you will be guided by. And then that's really more stepping into it as an arts therapist, on you, solely an arts therapist. I would say the diploma is more, yeah, it's adding to what you're already doing, and you want to sort of start utilizing some of those creative processes and understand how that works. So that's what you would do with the diploma. But I think, yeah, going forward and saying, okay, I want to be an arts therapist, then definitely you'd want that, because you want to get accreditation as an arts therapist, and you want to have that insurance that covers you in private practice, and yeah, in all practice. So yeah.
Beautiful. So if it's a starting point or supporting your existing kind of work, diploma is the way to go. If
Yes,
you're looking to be an arts therapist, you want that accreditation. This is your career. That's the direction.
yeah, that's beautifully summed up. Thanks.
No, it was from your beautiful explanation. That was perfect. I think we've covered the accreditation pretty well now. I'm sure we'll get some more questions on it as we progress. Maybe we can go next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to the flexible delivery modes. Now, I think we touched upon this already, Svetlana, when you were talking about the intensive subjects as well as the placements. A really important thing, I think, to note is what our online classes actually look like. I think people gain this perception that online means pre-recorded sessions, self-paced, watching bunches of these old lectures when you can fit it into your free time. But our course isn't like that at all. So, in terms of our live interactive sessions, would you like to give a bit of a breakdown about what our online classes look like?
Oh, definitely. I've taught quite a few online, and it's anything but static. You are definitely, we do, check-ins and check-outs just like we would on campus. But yeah, so definitely online. It's very vibrant. I think we've even got a dance movement one happening online this next trimester, and I've got an incredible teacher for that. So yeah, it's anything but static. So we often also break out into smaller groups as well when we're doing some dyad work, or we're doing sort of more experiential work. So we'll break the classes down into smaller sort of breakout rooms, and then come back as a whole to sort of check in as the whole group. So it's dynamic and fun, and yeah, and often I love getting students to kind of, when they do check in, just looking at what's around them, and in the vicinity, and just like, just grab anything and just check in with it, and we have a lot of fun with it. So, and I know a lot of teachers are very dynamic. So
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds amazing. I think a concern we often get from students is, oh, I don't enjoy studying online. I like that integrative experience. And I think that's a very, holistic component of our degree, that online, it's still live, it's still interactive. They're really fun and engaging sessions. And I always let students know, if they are looking to do more of the online options for their classes, you would be treating them as if they were face to face. You want to attend these classes. And more often than not, they're not always recorded, just because of the content and the material that's covered in them, a lot of sensitive material, and for student privacy as well. Is that right, Svetlana?
that's correct. Yes. Yeah. But of course, there are times where you've got public holidays falling on, I think last trimester, on many Mondays. So there was quite a few, quite a few sessions. So yes, then we would do a recording for the students. But generally, yeah, it's not recorded for exactly that reason, because if you want to kind of have a check-in with your peers, and you want to be open and authentic, you kind of don't want it to be recorded. So yeah.
Yeah, and couldn't agree more. So overall, that's the summary of the flexible delivery mode. You've got live interactive sessions online, as well as face-to-face intensives, and then obviously your placements are face-to-face as well. I think we're probably ready for the next slide. Thank you. So, in terms of our support, you obviously have us. You've got the course advisors, which help with your admissions process. It can sometimes be a bit of a challenging journey when you're entering higher education, and we're here to make that as seamless as possible. We want it to be something you're excited about, not nervous about. So you've got the course advisor team available. You also have your brilliant academics, as you can see here with Svetlana, that are absolutely eager to help their students, passionate about the courses, and just have a wealth of knowledge behind them. But in terms of the actual student experiences, so when we're looking about what services you have as a student, the first one that would come to mind is the student experience team. So they're there to help you throughout your journey. They help with things like study plans, timetables, enrollments, navigating student systems, and they're absolutely fantastic. And they're here to help you throughout that journey. In addition to the student experience team, we've also got an academic learning support team. So they're there to help with any students really, but in particular students that may be new to higher education, new to study, things like understanding annotations and referencing and essay writing and things like that. We've got a full dedicated support service and team available. We also have a counselling service. We've got access to different facilities and resources all across our different campuses, depending where you're based. So even if you are a student that's primarily online, if there is a campus in the state you're in, we'd definitely encourage you to come along, access the resources, speak with your teachers, speak with the student experience team. And then, of course, we've also got our online resources, including our new platforms for student learning, student email, and a massive online library as well.
And I'd love to add, in addition to the digital library, there's so many resources there. And Cindy, who's our librarian, has actually put together a lot of workshops, like recorded workshops, and she's got some live workshops coming. And you can get so much great information on how to write essays, like what is it? What did they word it as? They said not like a pro. It was better than that. It was like write essays like a champion or something. But they really do go through the whole process of writing essays, APA, all those things that you need to know, and you might need a refresher, or you might be new to higher education, and I really would suggest you jump in and start having a look at the resources there, because it's brilliant.
Absolutely. I don't know if our students get access to the online library until they enroll, but once they do, for sure. And I guess finally, there's so many different support teams and resourcing available at Icon, but a final one to mention is that we do have a dedicated placements team as well. So when you come to that part of the degree where it's time to source your placement, if you're having any difficulties and you're looking for a bit of additional support, we've got a fantastic team that are ready to help facilitate that with you and guide you through the different steps and options, and heaps of industry connection as well. So I think that's a very brief summary of all of the different support systems. But of course, if there's anything in particular that as a student you might be looking for, feel free to pop it in the chat or ask any questions. We'll be happy to look at it. Next slide, please. Oh, I love this question. Okay, so now we're going to look at what makes Icon special. I think just jumping straight into that first point about leading institutions and arts therapy, maybe Svetlana, you want to speak to this one, and I'll jump in after.
Well, yeah, look, and why I love teaching at Icon, and I keep coming back to Icon to teach, and now I'm on the academic team, which is so exciting. And I think what really makes Icon special is that really intentional balance that they're striking between this experiential practice and learning, rigorous, clinical theory as well. I mean, it's definitely not a it's not an arts and crafts kind of course. It is rigorous, and then there's this genuine community at Icon too. I think that's what really makes it unique as well. So we're not just teaching theory in a vacuum. We're kind of committed to really putting what you're learning into clinical frameworks and then giving you the opportunity to practice and those skills, those therapeutic skills that you need, and then also giving you this hands-on experience of all these fantastic creative modalities as well. So it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I think when the proof's in the pudding, right? When you hear how passionate you are and how much you love the course, that also speaks to, what we're actually offering and what we're trying to do for our students. I think a lot of people ask about Icon as an institution and they're surprised to realize we've actually been around for over 30 years. We started in Adelaide in South Australia and we've expanded all across Australia. And I think that's really testament to the quality of our courses and, the demand students have for this holistic, integrative style of learning. So, yeah, there's a lot that makes Icon special, I think. Next slide, please. So now we actually have a video here from Asaya, one of our arts therapy students. We just thought it'd be nice to have a bit of an opportunity to hear about the course from a student's perspective. So if you want to play that one, thank you. I'll mute.
My name is Ossia. I'm studying Diploma of Art Therapy and I'm studying online. I describe art therapy as another language to express feelings and needs and communicate. I aspire to be able to be in a position to offer art therapy to a wide variety of people. I feel like everyone needs to have access to art therapy, and that's my dream. So the reason I chose to study at Ikon is when I was looking for a place who offers this course, I looked at different places, but Ikon had clear communications with me and I could explain the pathway I need to take. If I finish diploma, what are my opportunities in the field? If I finish my degree, what are the opportunities? And they were very responsive. What I love most about studying at Ikon is that I find online lessons are quite interactive. You make connections. I've already made friends with some of the fellow students, and the teachers so far that we've had are quite experienced and knowledgeable in the field. So I'm really enjoying it. I feel like already I've developed the skills of being a better listener and holding space for people to communicate, open up, or just be. It's like reading a novel. Every week, I can't wait for next week to see what teachers have got to offer and what we discuss and what we learn. It's been fascinating. I just love it.
Well, I think that's a nice little sample. I like that we got to see a bit of a Zoom screenshot as well that shows the interactive classes at the end there. Next slide, please. I think we've actually wrapped up well and truly on time. We were pretty efficient, weren't we, Svetlana? We got through this quickly. But it's good because I have seen questions absolutely pouring in to the Q&A box throughout the duration of the session. So I'd love to go through some of these questions um, with you guys, which would be amazing. I think a recurring one that came up a few times, which might be a good one for you, Svetlana, is about the proposed master's program. Now, obviously, I know you can't promise just yet exactly when it will be offered, but I do know that it's not a Master of Art Therapy, it's Master of Creative Arts Therapy. So, would you like to speak to the course itself and any little gems of info you might be able
Well,
to give us?
I am excited about the prospect of this being built, but it's literally we are at the very scaffolding at stage, so we don't even know what this is going to look like yet. But yes, it's going to be not arts therapy; it's going to be creative therapies. So yeah, all I can say is, as the team is being put together to build this. Again, it's going to follow Icon's beautifully balanced, rigorous theory with experiential learning as well. So I'm really excited because there are a few elements in the subjects that we've done in the bachelor, and we kind of think, oh, if we could add this and if we could add that. So now we can actually expand on some of those sort of little dips that we've had in the bachelor that we can actually really expand upon. But I can't, I can't give you too much information just yet because we
No,
are
no,
like at
that's
the
so good.
beginning.
A little snippet of promise is perfect. That's great. Another question that came up, I think I can speak to, it's asking about where our campuses are based. So we currently offer a campus in Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. Where classes are actually offered is dependent on student availability. So, for example, our Melbourne campus is always very busy. So we tend to run most of the classes face to face. A campus like Brisbane, for example, it will depend on student numbers, whether more classes are available online or face to face. Regarding other states that don't currently have a campus, we do have the online option for the majority of our study, and your placements can also be done wherever you're based. It's just the intensive subjects, so one in the diploma or three in the bachelor degree, that you would be required to travel to a campus for. So if you're in WA, for example, your closest campus would probably be the Adelaide one. Brisbane, you might want to look at the Sydney campus, for example. Okay, got
Oh,
another question. Oh,
Nicola,
sorry.
yeah, I was just going to bring up the one about the assessments.
Yeah,
If we could
please.
answer that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes. Is this what are the assessments like? Are they exams or research essays? That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one. Well, I have a fairly good understanding of the assessment process, but Svetlana, obviously you would have a much better one than mine. I understand that we're not a typical higher ed provider in the sense that you study, 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 and you have an exam at the end of the term. We've got a lot of integrative learning, everything from case studies to prac sessions, mock trials. But would you be able to speak a bit to the assessment modes?
Yes, yes, and we've gone beyond that too. We've added things like doing podcasts, group
Amazing.
presentations. Yes, of course, essays. There are some theoretical essays, but often we really look for what we call critical reflection. So we want to understand your understanding of the processes that you have been asked or tasked to kind of speak to. So critical reflection is a real big part of all the assessments where you really are kind of showing us your thoughts and how you're thinking and how did this, how did this change when I use this paint, and then when I use clay, something changed. Like, we really want you to sort of critically reflect on process. But as I said, there are a lot of different elements now that we're introducing. Things like, as I said, podcasts. I think there was one that we did with podcasts on a mental health challenge that students chose. And then, of course, we're sort of looking at more creative ways of doing these assessments. But no matter which assessment you do, even though it's experiential, we always want to base it in, solid theory, like, references. So you can't get away with just saying, oh, it's like this and it's like this. You have to actually tell us, okay, why and
Yeah.
who says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. I wish it was like that when I studied, back in the day, everything was by rote and you were just almost regurgitating information. So this is really testing your understanding of the course. It's a lot more analysis, a lot more understanding, less, repeating what you've heard, which is great. Beautiful. Another question we've got is about the classes, how many they would be, the workload, studying full time. In terms of actual contact hours, you'd be looking at roughly 3 hours per subject. So if you were studying a full-time load, we run on a trimester basis rather than some institutions that run on semesters. So that means a full-time load would be 3 subjects per intake. So if you were studying full time, you'd be looking at least 9 hours of contact during the week. If you were studying part time, which would be 1 or 2 subjects, you'd be looking at 3 to 6 hours. This is your physical, even if it's online, virtual, but your actual live contact hours. In terms of the actual study and the workload, Svetlana, what would you be recommending to students?
Yeah, I
In full
actually
time?
know that on the website they actually break that down as to how many hours, and I think that that's pretty accurate. I'm just not remembering exactly what it is, but if you go on that, I think you had a link on this PowerPoint earlier. If you go there, it'll actually give you the breakdown and the hours required. Yeah.
It does. It does. I think the general tertiary recommendation is that each subject at the university level requires about 10 hours of study. I would say that in terms of our classes, it probably differs depending on the content, whether it's more theoretical, more practical, depends on individual student
Yeah, true.
understanding and grasping of the subject. And it also depends what assessments you have going on. When you've got a big report or an assessment coming on, you're going to be putting a lot more time per week into your subject than, when you don't have assessments. But in general, would you say that the course is flexible enough for people that are working full time? I know that we
Yeah.
do have evening options for our classes, which helps.
Yes, you're definitely flexible, but of course, consider if you have got, you're working and maybe, you would consider maybe not doing it full time, but part time. So don't overstress yourself. I always say, if you all good things will come. It might just take a bit longer because I know that you can be really enthusiastic, but you're working as well, and then it can all sort of become overwhelming. So don't take on too much. Yes, it'll take longer to get there, but you will get there. And just ensure that you are giving yourself the space so that you've got the capacity to do the best you can in the course.
Absolutely. And I think another benefit to our trimester-based model means that even when you're studying part-time, it's actually not extending your duration of study as much as you might think, because you've actually got 3 intakes per year rather than 2. So if we look at the diploma, for example, if you were to study 2 subjects instead of 3 for the duration of the diploma, you actually only have 3 subjects left over, which you could potentially do in just one more additional trimester. So if you are concerned about the part-time, full-time options, I would encourage you to reach out to one of us course advisors. We'd be happy to help map out what the duration might look like for you personally. But I think with the online flexibility and the evening class options, like you said, it's pretty manageable for most students. Yeah. The only thing that I will flag is for our WA students and sometimes the Queensland ones as well, but particularly WA, for the online sessions, there is a bit of a time difference during the summer. So make sure that you're checking on the timings for delivery for your classes. Okay, well, we have a few more questions coming up. Arts therapy and creative arts therapies, I think you've touched on that a bit already, Svetlana, about the courses. Okay. Does the Bachelor in Arts Therapy give you accreditation needed to go on to do the psychotherapy masters? That's a really good question because a lot of our students do have an interest in both in counseling and psychotherapy and arts therapy. I know that we're very proud of both of these courses at Ikon. Our master's entry is actually dependent on completion of an undergraduate degree. So our diploma wouldn't meet the requirement for direct entry, but our bachelor degree would. And it would actually be a really beautiful pathway because there's a lot of crossover in content, and obviously it's a lower AQF level, but it would set the foundation for a lot of the things you'd go on to do in the master's degree. So yes, it would allow you to go on to the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy. And potentially the Masters of Creative Art Therapies
Yeah,
when we have
that's
it,
right.
right, Solana?
But also the beautiful thing too with the counselling and psychotherapy and arts therapy courses, there are some subjects along the way that both of them you get both counselling students and arts therapy students. There is a lot of there's some crossover, so yeah, it ties in beautifully. And I think the whole approach, the client-centered, holistic approach, is across both courses. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a few different questions here. I can see one coming from a nurse that was asking about whether the diploma plus the nursing degree would allow them to work independently as an arts therapist. And there's a few questions I might mark off with a similar theme to that. I think this is what you spoke to, Svetlana, really about the diploma versus the bachelor, right? If you're looking to be an arts therapist, that accreditation definitely gives you further standing. But if you're already qualified, like this person is as a nurse, having the diploma is a pretty good starting point to still start practicing, to still start running workshops, to integrate it into their existing work.
Yeah, and it's really important, I think, to be transparent about. You wouldn't be able to call yourself an arts therapist, but you are going to use art as therapy. So that would be the difference. So you would be using what you've learned in terms of your profession already. You're just kind of adding on, but you wouldn't be an actual arts therapist. I just really want to be transparent about that because, yeah, but definitely using art as therapy in your role as a nurse, or using that as an extra, like you're going to do some workshops for patients. Certainly, you certainly could. Yeah.
Beautiful. Another question we've got, a bit of a recurring theme here, is about the job opportunities for arts therapists in Australia. Now, my understanding is that in general, the mental health sector for counselling, arts therapy, psychotherapists, it's had a massive boom since 2020. I think SEEK's projected something like a 15% increase over the next 2-year period leading up to 2028. Where would you say that arts therapy in particular is sitting within that demand?
Look, I think more and more people are becoming aware of what arts therapy is and the benefits for clients and for different client demographics. So I think there's a bigger call out, particularly in schools. Schools have really embraced art therapy as part of supporting their students. We had the Royal Commission, I think it was in 2018 or something, and after that Royal Commission, the government's acknowledged that art therapy can be utilised in schools. So schools actually do have access to funding from the government for art therapy in schools. So that's a growing sort of population there, schools. When you're looking at more clinical work, that's also growing, but with the clinical work, like in hospital settings, that's where you would need to look into going beyond the bachelor as well. So again, I'm just going to be transparent about that. So if you really want to work in hospitals, then you've got a little bit more to go after the bachelor. But certainly in community centres, there are a lot of organisations that have multidisciplinary teams, and they may be looking for art therapists. So you'd be able to go in, and really it's about how you are kind of, I suppose, presenting yourself. So again, going back to how Ikon and their rigor with their clinical theory, and that you sort of will learn the language of that clinical settings, and working with other teams as well. So you're going to learn that language so you'll be able to kind of approach these multidisciplinary teams and offer your services. And of course, private practice, that is growing. Again, people are becoming more aware of art therapy and the benefits of it. So the private sector as well is growing.
Absolutely. And I think even just on paper, if you're looking at a higher education level diploma, which is an AQF level 5, it's actually a step higher than TAFE or vocational diplomas, or our bachelor degree is a recognized AQF 7, and the bachelor degree also coming with accreditation and potentially double accreditation for students starting this intake. That alone is really good from a recruitment perspective, as employers in the industry. It's showing time and experience in a highly recognized course. So there's a lot of opportunity from that standpoint as well. Well, there's quite a few questions here, but it looks like Chris has been incredibly efficient on the chat. So she's been ticking them off faster than I can even read out. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if there's a few more.
Tequila, I thought we might
touch
also stress the close-off date for applying.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, can we go to the next slide, please, Luke? So the next intake is actually coming up in May. So this is our trimester 2 intake. Even though it's a trimester 2, they're still actually treated as starting intakes, all of our intakes. So you'll still have access to all of the starting classes. It's not like you're starting further in the degree. 25th of May, so just a little less than a month from today is when our next trimester of classes start, and the application deadline is the 8th of May. So I believe is that next week? Yep. So Friday next week is actually our application deadline for this intake. Now, if you are looking at arts therapy, if this is something you've been considering for a while, I would say there's no better opportunity than to receive the double accreditation, the last intake for ANZA CARTA, as well as the PAC for accreditation. So it's a really strong time to start if you are looking for trimester 2. Even though applications close next week, if you need any help fast tracking and getting it organized, you've got our course advisors and we're here to help you with that process. For any questions, I think we are probably wrapping up now. So for any questions that haven't been answered in the Q&A session, I would encourage you to reach out to a course advisor. You can contact us via the website or our email. If it's not up on the screen, it's courseadvisor@ikon.edu.au. I think we'll probably send out an email after the webinar anyhow with our details. So if you want to get in touch, we'd be really happy to have a one-on-one consultation with you. You know, we can have a chat about what your goals are, which course is the best fit, and how we can get you started. A lot of the questions that came up were about credit and RPL as well, which Chris has been very diligent in the chat. But I guess the summary of that is that they're always assessed on a case-by-case basis. So it's best that we do that assessment for you individually. The application itself is online and it's free to apply. So if you enjoyed this webinar and you're feeling passionate and inspired about arts therapy, A, we're happy to hear it, and B, we're happy to help. So I think that's probably it from me today. Svetlana, do you have anything you wanted to say to our lovely students?
Oh, I just say, yeah, if you're passionate, you're committed. I came to arts therapy at the young age of 45 years old, and I tell you, it was worth every bit. I worked my way through the bachelor, then got the master in the end. But even at the bachelor level, I was working straight after graduating through placement of all things, of course. But it's just worthwhile. But it is definitely a commitment, and you have to be dedicated to this. It's a calling, but it's worth it, because working with clients using these creative modalities is just incredible experience. And I've just been fortunate to work with such a large demographic of children and adults, and with all different kinds of challenges. And it's just been, sometimes it was the arts that just got me in through the door. My roll of brown paper on my shoulder got me in to see one. I'm just thinking of one teenager in particular. Otherwise, she wouldn't have even been bothered. And we were seeing her and supporting her for 2 years after that. So it's, just
Beautiful.
If you really want to do it, commit and do it.
Yeah, loves labor. Like, it's hard work, it's a proper course. You've got to be willing to invest the time, the effort, the energy, but the reward is there. It's a beautiful course. Well, thank you so much to my team. Thank you, Chris, for doing a phenomenal job on the chat. It's been very, very busy, and you've been really doing well keeping up with everything there. Thank you, Luke, for managing the presentation. And thank you so much, Svetlana, for your incredible insight on the course and the material. It's been enlightening even for me to hear a lot about it from your perspective. To our lovely audience today, everyone watching the webinar, thank you so much for your time and your commitment this evening. I know it's not easy taking a full chunk of 1 hour out of your evening to make time to be here, but we really appreciate it. And thank you to all those with their questions in the chat and keeping everything nice and active for us. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I really hope to hear from some of you afterwards. As I said, please don't hesitate to get in touch if any of your questions have gone unanswered, because we're really happy to help. Thanks, everyone. Have a very lovely evening. Good night.